Good. Thank you, Katie. You're the best. Katie or Valerie, if you'd be willing to keep admitting people, that would be great. So first, welcome. We are so excited everybody's here. We are really excited to share some of these updates that we got from Belgium. Our Kyorugi Vice Chair team has been working really hard on this presentation. We have almost everybody on here. Makisha's on here. Jamshid is on here. I saw Master Boy and Kim is here. And I'm trying to see who else is on here. Quite a lot of people. Master Sean, saw your name. Master Eric, Dr. Gilson as well. So we really appreciate everybody for being here. Master Sieber might be able to pop in a little bit later today. He did have a family commitment, so he might pop in and say, hey, halfway through. But he did want to say thank you to everyone for attending this and being a part of getting this update out to everyone. These updates are specifically from the IR refresher and seminar that we had in Belgium back in March. So this was the first seminar that was taught by the new WT referee chair. But all of these updates have been implemented since the Wuxi event that they had in December. So if any of you have been hearing about any of these things, they all have been implemented since December. So you're not crazy. You've been hearing about these, I promise. We will start to implement these in May. So anytime you have any questions, come up to any of us vice chairs. We can get some questions answered for you. This is also going to be posted. So if you ever need to go back and review, this will be a great resource for you. We are going to, at the end, have some time for question and answers. We do ask that you write your questions in the chat. We're going to try and combine some that are similar, but we want to make sure that we get all your questions answered. So please just make sure you write your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end as well. Cool. I think that's all the notes that I got. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so our updates. Here we go. So the very first thing that we're going to touch on is we're going to touch on the punch. Now, as Taekwondo practitioners, we know what a good punch is. So that standard is really already there in Taekwondo, but we are seeing more and more people that are scoring for front hand jabs instead of back arm punches. And so the judges are now going to look for a straight punch, a strong straight arm punch technique, tightly clenched fist, but it's going to be from the rear arm. So the front arm is not going to score. So we're going to show you a couple of examples that we see that are quite common in most matches. So as you can see, Chung came in, and when he did that sliding roundhouse kick, he came in with his front arm and he jabbed. So that is something that will not score. No matter how strong it is, it will not score. Here's another example. So same thing. We're just wanting to encourage proper Taekwondo technique. That's why this update, this is coming down. Next one is attack after kal-yeo. So currently in the rulebook, it says the referee's arm is fully extended and the foot is on the floor. So if the arm is not fully extended and the foot is off the floor, there is no attack after kal-yeo. But if the referee's arm is fully extended and the foot is still on the floor, then it will be considered attack after kal-yeo. There's been a couple of challenges coming up with, okay, well, what happens with a punch? And what happens if the kick's already up in the air? Different scenarios like that. So the two interpretation changes that have come down. So number one is the one that we already have. When the referee declares kal-yeo, arm fully extended, then the attacking foot leaves the mat. That is considered attack after kal-yeo. The second is when the referee declares kal-yeo, and then an attacking fist starts from its original position. So it's from when the attack starts. Kal-yeo, and then there's a punch. That is going to be attack after kal-yeo. And the third is when the contestant's leg is already in the air and the referee declares kal-yeo, then the attacking leg begins another kick. That we see most often is when athletes put their foot up on the shoulder, they've already attacked, then the referee says kal-yeo, and they swing their leg back to attack the head again. That will now be considered attack after kal-yeo. As always, no gamjan will be declared if the attack begins before or at the same as the kal-yeo. We want to make sure that we err in on the side of the athletes. Next is misconduct. There's a couple of different things with this. So I'm going to try and keep it slide by slide. Misconduct has expanded a little bit. So the first one is players need to stay engaged until the end of the round. The last 2 to 3 seconds, if the player does not engage, the referee will call kal-yeo. If the players ignore the referee's command, a gamjan for misconduct will be given. So previously, we had given a gamjan for kal-yeo. Now in those last 2 to 3 seconds, we will give the gamjan for misconduct. The reason that this implementation has come down is because those last 2 to 3 seconds, if there's a lot of a gap, the athletes will do a fist bump and they'll just leave. We want to see the continuation of the fight all the way until the end of the round because they need to be active throughout the round. So that's what this is really helping encourage, is for the athletes to continue fighting until the very end. Next is the rest time. This is something that has already come down, but it's going to be enforced a little more strictly. If the rest time between rounds reaches 0 and a player has not left their chair, the referee will give a gamjan for misconduct. The way that this will be implemented is that the referees will enter the ring at 15 seconds remaining for the rest time, call Chung and Hong at 10 seconds, and aim to start the match at 0-0. That means Shijak at 0-0, not Chumbi, wait, Shijak. We're going to strike Shijak at 0-0. So if we see any athletes that are still in their chair at 0-0, they will be given a gamjan for misconduct that goes on to that next round. Next one for misconduct. It's been implemented previously, but we've been given a little bit more structure. This has to do with a coach's misconduct. So coaches should not interfere with the referee or judge's decision. If a coach interferes, the procedure is as follows. The first time, the referee will declare kal-yeo and give the hand signal to sit down. The second time, the referee will give the coach's player a gamjan for misconduct, and the third time, the referee will issue a yellow card. This procedure resets each round, and if 2 yellow cards are issued during the match, the player will be disqualified. So what this looks like is they're trying to encourage the coaches to obviously be excited for their players, but we're having a lot of coaches on the international level that are giving referees a hard time. And so they're really wanting to discourage that. So if a coach is continuing to say, oh, that should have been a punch, that should have been a punch, or come on, ref, that was this, or things like that, that's what they're wanting to discourage. They're wanting to let the coaches be able to support their athletes, but not do things that look like harassing a referee. So they're getting a little bit more strict with that. So this will reset every round. And if 2 of them are issued, then the match will be over. So please keep that in mind. We want to be respectful to everyone that's in the ring. Valerie, would you like to take over?
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so the rest of our new interpretations have to do with video review. We have a couple of very specific cases here that we're going to go over. The first is that we've received more instruction about when to reject requests but return the card. As before, if the cameras are not recording due to a malfunction, maybe we haven't hit record or whatever, then we will return the card. But we have a new interpretation, which is that if all the cameras are completely blocked by a referee or an athlete, we will also return the card but reject the request. We need to be very clear that this is only if the cameras are completely blocked. We're going to use the same procedure as before. If we have the ability to see the action, then we need to accept or reject the request. But there are cases, especially when we have 1 camera or 2 cameras that are directly across the ring from each other, where that view might be obscured by the players or by the referees. And so we're going to follow this interpretation for those. Okay, so we, in the past, have had the ability to have two coach requests based on connected actions, but we have a new interpretation that coaches can request two actions within 5 seconds, even if they are not connected. If the requests include the following: head kicks up to 2 that are not scored, the removal of gum jumps given to the coach's own player, or the following gum jumps for the opposing player: crossing the boundary line, falling down, attacking after kal-yeo, or attack the fallen opponent. Here would be an example. If Chung kicks to Hung's head and points are not scored by the PSS, and then at the same time Hung crosses the boundary line, the Chung coach could request IVR for the head kick and giving a gum jump to Hung for crossing the boundary line. Previously, we would not be able to accept both of these requests because they were not considered connected, but now with the new interpretation, we could consider both of these within a single video review request. Just to be really clear about the limitations here. Coaches cannot request 2 gum jumps for the opposing player unless the second gum jump is attack after kal-yeo. This follows the normal rule set, which is we only give attack after kal-yeo or misconduct for a second gum jump within a set series of actions. Because misconduct is open to interpretation, it is not subject to video review. And so the only time we would give a second gum jump is if it were attack after kal-yeo. And then, as I mentioned, coaches cannot request more than 2 head kicks total. In the case of a request for double IVR, if both requests are accepted, the coach will get their quota back. If one request is accepted and the second is rejected, the points or gum jumps will be given for the accepted request, but the second will be rejected and the coach will lose their quota. This follows the same procedure that we have used previously. It applies also to this unconnected actions. Okay. If a coach makes an IVR request for a head kick, and during the video replay, the review jury sees a clear prohibited act that occurs prior to the requested head kick, related to crossing the boundary line, falling down, attack after kal-yeo, or attack the fallen opponent. The review jury will advise the referee to reject the request, pocket the card, and declare the necessary gum jump. So to be really clear, if a coach requests a head kick, but the review jury sees, for instance, that the player touched the floor before the head kick. In the past, because maybe the referee had not given the gum jump for falling down, the review jury would accept this request. But I think at the world level, there's a big push to make sure that we are doing things right in accordance with the rules. And so in this case now, if the review jury clearly sees that there was falling down before the head kick occurred, we will reject the request, keep the card, and the referee will be instructed to issue the gum jump for falling down or whatever the case may be. So I think that coaches need to be aware of this rule when requesting their head kicks going forward. And then finally, there are 3 instances when the referee will position the players back near the boundary line. Number 1, after issuing a gum jump for crossing the boundary line, as always. Number 2, after issuing a gum jump for avoiding that occurred near the boundary line. And then number 3, after a video request, if the players were near the boundary line prior to the request, or if their positioning makes a strategic impact. We've started to have players want the referee to reposition the opponent at other times. So we want to be very clear that these are the only instances where the referee is going to specifically reposition the players near the boundary line. I believe that's it. Alyssa, I'll turn things back over to you.
Awesome. Okay. So we do have 2 questions. I'm going to answer Master Bradley's very quickly. This video will be posted after the recording will be posted after this. So you'll be able to access this video again. It will be on the USAT YouTube page. For those of you that were not here at the beginning, if you have any questions, please put your questions into the chat and then we will get them all answered. And Katie just said it should be posted this weekend. All right, so we have a question from Miss Angie Lee. Does this include if a camera is not recording the section of the ring, blindside area, will the card be returned? So just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So you're meaning if the entire ring is not being able to be seen by the camera. I'm assuming that's what you're meaning by the question. So as always, everyone, when we're hosting events, everyone should do the best that they can to be able to get the entire ring into there. But this will also be accepted as well. That is something that is within, perfect. That is something that is within the organizing committee's power to be able to fix. And so that is something that we do not want to penalize coaches and athletes if it's something that is the organizing committee or like that sort of issue on that side. Hope that answers that question. Do we have any other questions? I wish this was like Facebook and I can see if people were typing. Correct. Thank you, Jamshid. It will, the protest will be rejected and the card will be given back because it is considered a camera malfunction. That is correct. Give just maybe 2 more minutes, see if anybody else has any questions. Correct. So the question is, so the updates will be live at the events in May. Yes, that is correct. These are not any rule changes. They're just implementations that are already based on the rules. And so we have approval from USAT to be able to implement these in May because they are already implemented at the world level. Does the misconduct in the last couple of seconds suggest we give 2 gamjans, for example, avoiding or crossing the boundary lines as well as misconduct? Sorry, let me read it again. Reading out loud doesn't always process in my brain. So you're asking in this case if we can give 2 gamjans, one for crossing the boundary line and one for misconduct. That is a call that the referee will need to make. Typically only one will be given. If it is the last few seconds, if there's crossing the boundary line, that you're going to give the crossing the boundary line. If it's avoiding, then you're going to give the gamjan for misconduct. But before you give that gamjan, you need to say gongyok to be able to alert the athletes that they still need to fight and they need to come in. If one athlete refuses to return to the ring, then you will stop and give that athlete a gamjan for misconduct because they decided not to engage in the fight. That's what we're trying to encourage, is to both athletes fight. Are coaches allowed to challenge if a forward hand punch is scored? We have not been given clear instructions on that. That is something that we are going to work on as a referee corps to make sure that those do not happen. But we have not been given clear instructions if that is something that can be removed or not, because it's not something that's a penalizable action, and it is the corner judge's perspective. So we will work hard as a referee corps to be able to make sure that people understand that. But at this time, it is not something that can be challenged because it is a point scored. Next question. For clarification, if a player kicks to the head multiple times, first hits, second misses, third hits, will the third kick score? So that would fit into the lifting the leg rule. So the third kick would score, but the fourth kick would not. Unless we're talking about misconduct, then that's different. So Miss Alice, if you'd be willing to rephrase your question, if it's about misconduct, that would be great. But that would fall under the lifting the leg rule. Are there any clarifications on Gamjan for avoiding the match if the athlete moves back, but using Taekwondo footwork at the end of the match, the last second of the match? This is something where you as a referee really need to use those instincts. That's why we encourage referees to really watch matches and go out and do some research, because you need to be able to know whether it is avoiding, that is the true spirit of what is happening, or if it is match management. So that's something that you as a referee need to study based on the situation that happens in the ring.
Alyssa, can I make another note?
Yep, go ahead.
The new interpretation for avoiding is really targeting the athletes who are just walking out. They're choosing not to fight the last several seconds of the match. The current interpretation is really encouraging them to fight all the way through the end of the match. They want the hot endings and not just the fist bump and walk out. So I want to clarify that that is what this new interpretation is really targeting. If you're seeing one player engaging and the other is avoiding, then it's a different situation than what this new interpretation is really talking about. And we would address that as avoiding per usual.
Okay. So Miss Alice, I see that. Can you tell me, I'm assuming that the first one scores, the second one does not score, and the third one does score, or the first and the third do not score, but they are hits. In both of those scenarios, video replay should look at the entire situation. And if you see 2 head kicks score, you will accept and give 2 head kicks because you are doing it at the benefit of the athlete. You see 2 kicks score, but if only 1 scores, then it's half right, half wrong. You will reject, but add the 3 points. Okay, let me rephrase. So there are 3 head kicks. The first one is one that hits but does not score. The second one misses, and the third one hits but does not score. The coach raises their card and requests 2 head kicks. We as IVR will look at the entire action, and if we see 2 kicks score, we will give 2 kicks. But if only one of those 2 kicks score, then we will reject and we will award 3 points. Any other questions? Wonderful. Okay. If Gamjan for not starting on time, Jonathan, can you give a little bit more clarification on what your question is? No, we will wait for the athlete. We will wait for the athlete and we will say Shijak, depending on the system, you will say Shijak, kal-yeo, give the Gamjan for misconduct. Some systems are not able to give the Gamjan for misconduct before saying Shijak. So you will say Shijak, kal-yeo, give the Gamjan for misconduct, but you will wait for the athletes. We won't start the match without both athletes being there. All right, if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to send an email USAT to either USAT or any of your vice chairs. Feel free, and we can get any of your questions answered, or we'll see you in Salt Lake in Richmond and we can get all the rest of your questions answered there. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I hope that everyone learned something, and we hope to be able to get rule interpretation updates out quickly to people so that we're all on the same page on a referee level, on a coach level, and on an athlete's level. We really want to make sure that everything is clear to everyone. So please let us know if you have any other questions. We hope you have a wonderful night, and we'll see you in a couple days. Thanks, everybody.